What gets you excited? The students, best job I've ever had. You know, one of the things that I've always said, even on the worst day, something happens, and I go, yep, that's why I do this. You know, it may be the very last thing of the day, maybe the very first thing of the day, but something always happens. And it doesn't have to be like a note from the kid. It can just be like you saw a light bulb go on with a kid and you go, oh, yep, that's pretty cool. The hugs and smiles, seeing student smiles. I had high schoolers, there weren't a lot of hugs. Making connections, my supportive teacher friends. Have you ever noticed that if your partner goes with you to dinner with a bunch of teachers, that they're bored out of their minds because you're talking education and they're like, you ever talk about anything else? No. Yeah, and they're so bored. You can see them glossing over. And if they're rude, they'll pull out their cell phone. And most of them just sit there glazed. So, seeing the kids' smiles, I love that. Seeing my kids in my electives. The kids of the staff, my kids, my team. I graduated the team. That's cool, because there's not always a lot of, I don't want to say, friendships within those grade level teams. Know that I'm making a difference. You guys feel like you're making more of a difference now than you would have, or those of you that haven't been in a classroom, or you think you would have pre-pandemic? Or do you think it's more or less impactful?
It's more impactful as far as for me because I'm with kindergartners and some of them don't even know how to be around other people.
Oh, right.
And so before they'd be fine.
Well, isn't it true that, like, I realize these kids are coming to you totally green, but that also means you've got so much more room to make a difference. I know that doesn't always feel so great. Somebody over here was saying something, yeah?
Well, but for me, I think emotionally and socially, that you're making way more of a difference now. Because some of them are just in such bad places coming in. Standard-wise, less, because you're spending so much time
On the other.
into a classroom through.
Do you guys think you're doing a lot of SEL? Like, is that what you feel like you're doing most of the time?
Yeah.
Do what?
3/4 of my
Yeah.
day is stopping fights in my classroom.
So you're stopping the...
My class has decided that it's the entire class versus one kid.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's been absolutely hell.
Oh, wow.
Like, so we have like incident reports that the kids fill out. Half of my class filled out an incident report against this kid on Friday. He got knocked out in PE because one of the 8th graders was tired of him running his mouth.
I wonder if when he wakes up, he'll have a better attitude.
He didn't today, so yeah.
The other thing for especially you newer teachers that you may not realize is the beginning of the school year, you start with everyone. And then gradually by Christmas, you've weaned out some of the kids that really don't have place. The public school is not meeting their needs. And you know, we used to say at the high school, by Christmas, the kids that belong in juvie are gone because they can't survive in a situation like this. So, what?
And hopefully I'll have another teacher by then.
Oh, right. But the main thing to realize is that this is a weaning period, and you probably, that's the unspoken rule. I don't think most of you probably knew that going in, that there is a weaning period. So it's not spoken as such, but you think about it, these kids who perhaps were never in school, or kids that were in school and ended up in, you know, family services or juvie, and then they end up going to court school, and now they're coming back to us. They've gotten no socialization because there was no court school for them to go to. I mean, it was all online. These kids don't have anybody putting them in check. That wasn't the right word to use, putting them in check, but that's what it is. That's what it is. Okay, any comments about this? We are doing something in a minute that will get even bigger into that. If you don't have that already. This is you.
All right, how'd it go with the, did anyone try it? With Victoria, look, how'd it go?
Well, as my students were trying to behead the school mascot,
Great kids.
I tried the staying calm tactic, and it worked okay.
I tried it. I was trying to do a one-on-one with a kid, and I have like a lot of kids. And one of my students is in the far corner, because I have like 35 kids right now, so he was in the far corner and he acted up a lot. So I was helping this kid way in the front, and I actually said to him, "Excuse me just 1 minute." And I did have to take a breath. I was like, okay. And then I said, I just turned full body and just kind of looked at him. And it shut him down for a minute. And I just went back to what I was doing. But it only lasted a minute. But I didn't lose my calm. And then I did make my way over and talk to him a little bit. But it did, that worked for a second, and I stayed calm.
That's good.
So,
That's progress.
yeah.
I was observed by my admin last week, and I had a student who needs that look all the time. And it only worked for a little bit, like you said. And then I did proximity, and as I was teaching, I started walking towards him, and I'm just standing next to him, and he put away what he was messing with. I'm like, okay.
Did you say thank you?
Yes, I did.
Good.
With proximity?
Yeah, you just, and then get back to work? Thank you. That's all I have to say. Because they know why you're there,
Yeah. Right, true.
and you're not opening your mouth to get into an argument. Right? All right, so I thought I saw Kim over here.
So, my kids are doing their district assessments while my VP and I had an instructional coach in my room, and the internet went down, and I practiced staying calm and regrouping. This was actually the second time the internet has gone down in the middle of their testing. Happened the week before too. So I stayed calm, and I said, you know what, we're going to silent read for a few more minutes. Let's just continue that, and then we whip something together real quick. But
Nice.
I think they were like, oh, okay, we're going to read for a few minutes. I was like, perfect, yeah, do that. We love that. Oh my gosh, I love how you're sitting quietly and you're engaged in your book. So.
Nice. Nice. One more.
I didn't use the full technique in my classroom, but with my own children at home, I used putting the tongue on the roof of your mouth to like relax your face. And I noticed with my 8-year-old it really made a difference, because the first time I did it, he kind of looked at me like, you're not reacting, because normally I say a lot with my facial expressions, and so making that conscious effort to, like, that made a huge difference for me. It kind of allowed me time to breathe, and then he noticed I wasn't, like, my face wasn't like, what the heck? So it worked for me at home, that technique.
Very good. All right, stand up. Face the wall. The back wall. The north wall. Okay, your hands, your palms down because you're helping Larry. You hear a disturbance in the front of the class. You check the disturbance.
Slowly turning.
You say, excuse me, Larry.
Excuse me, Larry.
Take a deep breath. Check your jaw. And slow turn, easy. And if you laugh, you lose. Don't laugh. She's good.
You got a mask on.
I know. You
All right, let's try that again.
You can.
All right.
Are you going to hurt?
Yeah, I probably wasn't going to get something hot. Start sweating everywhere. All right, so remember to go slow. So you're working with Larry. You hear a disturbance. Say, excuse me, Larry. Excuse me, Larry. Relaxing breath. Check your jaw. And slowly turn towards the problem. Very good. Nobody's laughing. Fantastic. All right. Sit down in pairs. Face each other. All right. No talking? The person whose birthday is closest to March 1st. March 1st is number 1. All right. Number one, make sure you are totally facing your partner, feet pointing towards each other.
You know I have a partner.
Sorry, you made a time.
Alright, quiet please. Quiet on the set. Alright, ones. Your job is to make the twos laugh. This week you get to use words. This week you get to use words. Alright, twos. Twos. Be under stress. You feel stress in your shoulders, in your arms, in your chest, in your abs, in your thighs. Relax. Put your hands on your lap. Find a focal point. Check your jaw. Ones. Make them laugh.
This guy here, the cat, and they go to tell the owner, he says, what do you want? He said, like, you never have a cat. And he said, okay, what does it look like? There's a guy that had death. What does my cat look like? He said, don't laugh at that. You're good.
1, 0. Negative 2.
Oh my God. The negatives.
Alright. Switch roles. Get under stress. Feel the tension in your shoulders. Feel it in your chest, in your abs, in your arms, in your thighs. Relax. Put your hands in your lap. Find a focal point. Check your jaw. Go to work.
What do you call a match?
We're the worst students.
Agreed.
Alright. Alright. I'm hearing a lot of laughing. Come on, guys. You cannot give it up. You're playing poker with your students. You cannot have an emotional reaction. You can't laugh. You can't get mad. Hold the sky. Alright.
Is that it?
Of the two of you, which one laughed the quickest or laughed at all? Alright. Your hand is in the air. Of the two of you, which one failed the worst? You get to practice being calm again. Here we go.
Oh, man.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
Are we going?
No, it's terrible.
Laugh at things. Oh.
Here we go. All right, victims. Practice. Here we go. You're under stress. You feel it in your shoulders. You feel it in your arms, your chest, your abdomens, your thighs. Relax. Find a focal point. Check your jaw. Go to work.
Because they can't eat.
Did they say a focal point? I'm sorry. Yeah, just like on the person's face? Honestly, so I give them a circle. I had to call them
3, 2, 1. Hello.
They have no place. Oh yeah.
Alright, here we go. Okay. Is it getting more comfortable? I know it's goofy as hell. But as you heard some of the stories today, I'm not going to tell you it's a magic bullet that it's going to cure every issue you have in class. But just with our calm demeanor, we're 60–70% there. All right? I understand we still have some challenges out there. Using approximation will get us another 10% there. Okay? It's why we start with this first, and then we're going to start talking about having high expectations and being consistent with that. But what we're trying to do with our class is layer some things out there, make you master them before we move on to the next step. And we've got some really goodies towards the end of the class sessions in March. I promise that it'll get better. We have more tools for you. But we need you to master this first because it covers a lot of bases in a hurry. Okay? So remaining calm because your emotions are what?
Contagious.
Say it together. Your emotions are
Contagious.
contagious. All right, Jenny, you're up.
Okay, so one of the things that we've talked about, especially when you guys were doing, what do you call it, hybrid learning or distant learning, is that we have to find new ways, obviously. We're dealing with a whole different kind of group of kids, and we have to find ways to reach them. And if you haven't noticed, patience is probably the one big thing that you need. And for some people like me, I don't have much. So I don't know how I would do in the classroom right now. But if you know your expectations, teach them, and control your classroom, it's going to make a lot of this stop. You know, especially as your discipline becomes more solid. And by discipline, I don't mean sending them to time, you know, to whatever you guys call it, the responsibility center, or that's not being successful for you or the child, because the minute they leave your class, you've lost control, and you've delegated it to someone else, vice principal, principal, and so therefore that's the person they respect, not you if you send them out all the time. Obviously, there's sometimes you have to. I mean, you just have to. But ideally, when you're able to stay calm, and the tools we're going to give you are going to make the classroom stay calmer, hopefully, you will be able to operate and get into more curriculum and all that. Whereas you guys mentioned primarily right now you're dealing with SEL and setting expectations and boundaries. That's a lot to do. And having said that, I think you guys have safely assumed that if you are spending all this time on SEL and expectations, which we'll talk about, you can't even get into the academics. You can't even start for them to start learning. So you've got them behind socially and you've got them behind academically. And somehow you're supposed to find a meeting of the two. Hopefully this will, if it's implemented correctly, you guys will be able to at least find some peace to be able to start getting into that. So I have a couple topics. If it applies to you, just stand. And when you are, while you're doing this, look around. Look at who else is suffering the same way you are, or finding joys in the few things. Look around and see who is doing it also. Has anybody ever done the Freedom Riders Steps to the Line? Yeah, this is kind of my modified version since we can't move in this classroom. So when I call it out, if it applies to you, you're going to stand up. Okay? The first one is, how many of you feel that your mental health is struggling through this stuff? Wow. Wow. Anybody want to comment to this effect? Or just our therapist all on speed dial? Yeah. Okay, next topic. Go ahead and sit down. We already talked about kids being behind. How many of you feel like you are struggling with the curriculum? The curriculum that you're supposed to be teaching, it's not so bad. But look around. Because ideally, you guys are going to be a support group for one another. Okay, so when you're not strong in something, hopefully somebody you know is. Thank you. How many of you are already feeling burned out?
You gotta think about that one.
Look around. We're only, what, a month in? Are we a month in? 2 months. 2 months in. No, we started in August. A month. I know it probably feels like 6 months. But it's
6 weeks in.
6 weeks. I don't know, some of you.
29 days.
Got it. Nobody's counting them. So look around, because this is tough. This is tough. I've never seen anything like this. So, and you know, I think some of you heard me talking I'm on a bunch of teaching sites on Facebook. You guys probably are too. And teachers are walking off and leaving their contracts. I mean, mid-year. Well, they're not even mid-year yet, but they're leaving because of that. And so we want to help. Like, we want to be there to help you so that that doesn't happen to you. Okay, thanks. I don't know what that means. How many of you have a very, let's say, 30-minute or longer commute? Wow. Anybody who lives up the mountain? Do you know? Where?
Corkle.
Oh yeah, we talked last time, right? Yeah. And you do too, right? Awesome. Look who's commuting. I don't know if you guys do ride share, but there you go. Thank you. Thank you. How many of you are developing strong relationships with your colleagues? Okay, that's a positive. That's a positive. So it sounds like you guys have teams that are helping you through all this. That's good. Good. Thank you. This was yours. How many of you are dealing with health issues as you go forward this year?
How many of us have health issues?
Yeah, or dealing with them. Yeah?
She can't stand up, she's got a busted.
Oh, there's only 2. Well, me too, but wow. Does it make it harder?
Yeah.
You're exhausted, right? Beyond exhausted. Have you guys ever read the spoon theory? Spoon theory? Awesome. You have? If you haven't, read it. If you have anybody in your life that is chronic illness, read it. It gives a great, it's just almost like a poem that a lady who has chronic illness wrote because she was trying to get her husband or her friend to understand. Like, you know, when, for the gist of it for me is when you were younger, when you said you were tired, you could push a little bit further.
Yeah.
Right? You have a little bit more strength. I mean, you're tired, but you're not like drop dead, exhausted. And when you have chronic illness, when your body says done, you're done. You're done. Like I'm literally in the chair asleep the minute my body quits. So that weighs heavily right now because of the stress and everything else. How many of you, and nobody's going to go rat me out, but how many of you feel that this stress is causing stress at home? Yeah. How many of you are young parents with babies, like young kids? Whew, dear God. More power to you. I'll give you vitamins or something. How many of you, and this is, I know it's going to really pertain to some of you who are interns, but how many of you are finding that finances are a lot harder than you expected them to be this year? Nobody.
No, I'll stand up.
I would have been all over that. It's hard, huh?
It's a lot harder than I thought it was compared to what I was doing before. Yeah.
What were you doing before?
Just honestly nannying full time.
Well, nanny's good.
It put me through college. I paid off my college debt nannying, and then I came to teaching. It's all different.
Awesome. I mean, not.
I
awesome,
love it because
but-
I'm still with kids and I'm still teaching and loving on them. But it's definitely, and we just bought a home, so
Wow.
yeah.
That's
different.
tough.
But I'm enjoying it for what it is.
Well, yeah, I just think, you know, a lot of us that were interns or had to do student teaching, you know, that's a year we don't get paid. Like, I always just like a psychologist has to do their hours, they don't get paid for those either. Like, it's just amazing to me that we get paid so little for the amount of education we have and what we do have to do. But it's because we get that big summer, everybody thinks it's so enjoyable. What do you have a living room?
Trying to find a house, trying to find a place apartment, and then things are tough, the rents are going sky high.
How many of you have dealt with that? Trying to find housing in the midst of a pandemic and a new job, and wow. Wow. And you had mentioned, she had mentioned that she was buying a house. How many of you are in the process of going through that? That's what?
They're so expensive right now.
Really?
Everything's going up.
Well, that's good for the homeowners, I
My
guess.
husband was trying to get us to sell our house. I'm like,
Thank you.
Are just as much, if not more than mortgages.
So I think it's, we were going to brainstorm coping techniques, but I want to put that in your head, and we'll talk about it next time, because now it'll be spinning around in your head, like how many people stood up. And you gotta love my bus.
that does not look like a struggle bus though.
No, it's cute. Hey, we all got struck.
It's a happy bus.
All right. Steve is the one that really likes this. So your expectations. Your room is your kingdom. I mean, that's what I tell them. When I'm telling new teachers, I'm like, you need to realize this is your domain. And when your kids walk into their room, your room, they become part of your family, really, right? And you have certain expectations. And it doesn't matter what their parents expect of them at home. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what other teachers do. It doesn't matter what your team teacher does. What matters is what you're going to do and expect of the kids. And we've talked about it before, like, my parents were loosey-goosey. I did whatever that. My dad was a preacher's kid, and he got in so much trouble he couldn't ever tell me not to get in trouble. And I had no supervision. But if I went to my grandmother's, not only did I have to know how to perfectly set a table, but I needed to know how just perfect lines on the vacuum. Which I don't know if my mom vacuumed. I never did it. And so it didn't matter that they were not the same rules. I knew what I was expected of in both houses. That's the same for the school and your kids. Their respect is for you. And so you establish that this is my classroom, you are welcome, you know, you're part of this, but they really have to earn that, right? I mean, it's a privilege to be in there. You wouldn't go over to your grandmother's and start throwing stuff around and, you know, leaving stuff on the floor, or, I mean, I would hope they wouldn't, some of them would, but there's an expectation, let you be that person that expects a lot out of them. Doesn't mean you're mean, you know, it doesn't mean you're punishing them. It's just stern. They know what, they know their boundaries. And that they will, and I know most of you would agree with this, that kids thrive on boundaries. And they do well. And I saw just how well. My ex and I adopted her two nieces. And one was 16 and one was 12. And the 12-year-old, we got the 16-year-olds too late, but she's married and has a kid and she's happy. But this 12-year-old was another force, total force. And she had straight Fs, and she moved in, and we lived in Raymond. If anybody knows where Raymond is, there's nothing out there. Like, if they'd have tried to sneak out, literally they would have been probably eaten by wild pigs. And so they didn't go anywhere. They didn't go anywhere. It helped that there was a strange-looking man that always walked up and down the street too, or down the dirt road. We're on a dirt road, so. Anyway, they couldn't sneak out, and my ex was military, and I was a high school teacher. So these kids didn't have a chance in hell, right? So they come in to live with us, and we're like, you understand that things are gonna be very different. Yeah. Well, Miranda, the youngest, graduated with a 4.7. How cool is that? Yeah. She busted her butt. And really all that mattered was somebody believed and kept track of her, right? So our expectations were high. Her mother's had none. Other than, do you have a boyfriend? That was her number one concern all the time. So expectations make a difference. They do. I had an Avid kid tell me that when she got her grade report, she's grown now, but she said, when I used to get my grade report, I was more afraid of you seeing my grades than my parents. And I said, well, I wasn't mean, I didn't punish you. And she said, no, I didn't want to disappoint you. And that's what you want your kids to do. Yep. That they respect you so much that you're their pseudo-parent. Did I address that? Pretty much. Okay, this is it hooked up? I don't even know if this really applies right now, but I heard it on TikTok, my favorite thing to do in the world. And it's really interesting, I think. I would have never expected something to be serious with him.
68, I'm 10 years old. The assignment the teacher had was, everybody in this class, write your name on a piece of paper and what you want to be when you grow up. I wrote on my paper, I want to be on TV. That's what I wrote. That lady said, turn in your papers. She went around the room, called everybody's name up. You had to stand while she read your paper. She read off everybody's name. She saved me for last. She said, little Stevie, come to the front. I'm thinking, okay, this is, I ain't never had a gold star in school in my life. I've never been recognized for academic achievements in my life. Here I come, little Stevie coming to the front. I was poor. I had to wear my brother's clothes to school. I got a belt that's too big, it's tied around me twice. I'm skinny and I'm heading to the front. They used to call me Tater Chip in school because I'm shaped like a potato chip. And I walked up there and I'm standing in front of class. I had a severe stuttering problem in school. I could not talk outside of my house. I thought this woman was going to give me a gold star, so I'm standing up there. She didn't call me up there to give me the gold star. She called me to the front to humiliate me, and that lady did. She said, why did you put something like this on your paper? You called me to the front. You know I can't talk. So she started, why did you write this on your paper? Who in your family ever been on TV? Who in this school ever been on TV? Who in this neighborhood has ever been on television? She said, why would you write something like that on your paper? And look at you standing there, you can't even talk. I was crushed. Why would you write that on your paper? You can't even talk. It's a teacher. You're supposed to be shaping and molding my mind. Why would you write something like that on your paper? You'll never be on TV. Every Christmas, I send her a flat screen TV. I wanted her to see what God had done for me. The fact that they don't see the dream, the fact that they don't see what you can be, has nothing to do with what God can do. Nothing at all. I don't care who you are, go cut your TV on. You cut your TV on 7 days a week. That little black boy with the studying problem, he all over that TV. That little black boy messed around and became a TV star. She didn't see it.
See, I didn't expect that from him. And when I was watching, I was like, oh my God, this is a movie. Yeah, I hope she's embarrassed.
1968.
1968?
Makes me wonder how many other kids she did that to.
Yeah, you know it wasn't just one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way. I can't believe I had high school. You can probably tell by the way I talked about it. And I had kids that would tell me, Miss Taylor, you're not going to believe what so-and-so said to me. You know, or that I'm stupid, or that I would never be able to do that. And I think, really, people are doing that now? Like, we know the damage that does. You know, why would people do that? I don't get it. Because even if the kid can't make it to Harvard, and they want to go to Harvard, right? What's the hurt in telling them to try? Right? What's it going to do? That quote, you know, aim for the moon, you'll land among the stars. You know, we could all do great at Harvard, but we could also do really well at Fresno State. But, you know, the fact that a teacher would shoot that out from somebody. I was avid, so I was constantly counseling kids about college. And I think I told you, some of those kids I never thought would become the students they were. And nearly every one of them went to a four-year college or was, or at least accepted. Yeah.
The biggest thing for me is, I think when teachers act like college is the only option.
Yeah.
Because it's not. Trade school is huge, or they act like a four-year college is the only option.
The only thing.
No, there's community college. Like, I lost track of how many times people would look at me when I told them that I was going to community college, and they were like, well, at least you're going to school.
Like, it's a subpart
Excuse me,
thing.
I'm the one that started the ag business program at the Madera Community College. I'm the first person to graduate from it. And they just knock you down by what you're doing. And it's like, I come from an agricultural background, and I'm used to working with kids in ag, and let's be real, a lot of those kids aren't cut out for a four-year university.
No, but they'll be the one.
to get
They'll be
through
the
high
one welding
school.
your fence.
They're the ones that are gonna go to trade school.
Yep.
And when you hear teachers saying like, oh, if you don't go to school, you're gonna end up like the garbage man. Well, that teacher didn't tell that kid that the garbage man makes 4 times more than they do.
Seriously.
So for me, it's like, why are we idolizing college? It's like, yes, everyone should strive to have that goal.
Yeah, but don't we all have a fit? Like,
Exactly.
I know, it was hard for me being the Avid coordinator to only push for, because that's Avid's thing, right? Because I didn't go straight, well, I went straight to a 4-year on a scholarship and then said, this is for the birds, and left. It was a school where I had to wear dresses every day, and I couldn't cuss, and I wasn't supposed to have earrings, so I had the whole thing on. I didn't last very long. And I ended up going to JC's. My parents made too much to qualify, right? But not enough to foot the bill for me, which is probably most of us. And JC, I think I went to 3 different JCs. I went to a lot of schools. Benefited me as a teacher, but yeah, there's so many other opportunities. But if a kid walks up to you and says, you know, I want to work on race cars, why not say that's awesome? There's such a huge future in that. We can, you know, maybe I know somebody you can, you know, shadow for a day or anything like that. Why not encourage them? And it's just sad that teachers still do what Steve Harvey. And granted, that was in 1968 when I was born, but that was a long time ago. But it wasn't that far along, you know? And we still have people doing that. This is Steve saying, there's no degrees of consistency. You either are consistent or you're not. And that makes you have to think. You know, like the kid will say, well, you didn't make John do that, and he threw the paper on the ground. You didn't make John. Every kid in there is watching you. They're watching you to see what you're going to do. And they may not say anything right away, but they're talking, you know, they're putting it away in their little database in their head. It's hard. It's hard. I was a basketball coach, varsity basketball coach at Central, and we have been pathetic for so many years. And I got these 4 transfers in that were so good. And honestly, I didn't recruit them. But it made my life so much easier. And we had an important game against Sanger, and I came from Sanger, so that was a big deal. And all my former players from Sanger were going to be there. It was a big deal. The pressure was on. And my 4 best players showed up 1 minute late to the bus. And I had a rule that you were there 15 minutes early, but if you had a situation, you just said, better not be late. And they were late. And they got on the bus. And I know everybody was looking at me to see what I was going to do. And the whole drive to Sanger, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. What do I do? Like, this game is the most important game in my world. And what am I going to do? And I benched them. And we lost by 1. But I benched him, and I had a parent tell me almost 15 years later, she was talking about that. And I thought, you know, sometimes you got to realize what's really important. You know, the kid you may think that kid's off their rocker, but who cares? You know, be consistent and be fair. I guess fair is subjective, but be consistent. If they know what to expect, they're going to thrive. When you see unacceptable behavior, you either act and your rules become reality, or you fail to act and the rules are nothing but air. I've been in so many classrooms where they have the rules written on the back, and yet, you know, 3 or 4 of them are constantly broken. And the teacher doesn't address it. And can you address everything? No. But if you see it, there's a way, whether it's proximity, whether it's eye contact, whether it's a, you know, whatever, or Queen Victoria look, whatever, that's addressing it. You don't have to punish the child or make a scene or call them out in order for it to be addressed. In your classroom at all times, discipline must come before instruction. Sadly, you guys are finding that out the hard way. So expectations are expressed through your policies and procedures. You have to have a routine for everything. Have you ever thought about your routine and what's regular for your kids? Because, you know, they say that variety keeps it exciting. But things like the schedule, kids need that to be consistent. You're the only thing that is consistent in their life. School and you. Think about that. They know they can eat at school. They know what to expect from you. And they know what their day is going to look like. And when you think about where these kids come from, A lot of them are in homes where they're either screamed at or ignored. Or they play the adult. You know, and if you think about it, to a kid who is taking care of their 3 little brothers and sisters, or a sick parent, I mean, really, is their math homework that important to them? That's the least of their worries. And then they have to decide when everybody's asleep, do they want to go to sleep or they want to do that? And that's not to say that they shouldn't have homework, but keep in mind where these kids are coming from. And not all of them, clearly, but the ones who are, I mean, really almost every kid has a struggle. You know, I came from a middle class, everybody thought my parents were great, and they were, you know, we had everything. But there was massive abuse in my family, massive. Nobody knew. I was the basketball star. I slept through school and they just let me do it. And it was because, you know, nobody knew what I was dealing with at home. And you know, God forbid, if I just said anything, my mother would have come unglued. You know, you don't tell people your business. And that's what these kids are hearing too. So just be aware. I think that's the number one thing, is you never know what you're dealing with or what your child is dealing with. And sometimes a little compassion and a little understanding goes a really long way. Think about what your behavior standards are. Are you want your classroom silent? Or are you like me, you want it to sound like a beehive? You know, people are working, I can't stand it quiet. When they tested, I thought I was going to bounce off the walls. I was so bored, so bored. And I would walk, none of you bored. Not to say there were a few times I didn't fall asleep on my hand while they were testing, because it's so boring. I've got to be moving and I've got to have people talking, and it wasn't happening. The thing about what we teach is there is a formulated way to make sure these kids get what you expect. So like one of the things I was not good at this. I wish I'd known this when I was teaching. I just had a orange box in the back and I said, turn your work in there. You know, my thing was, these are high school students, I shouldn't have to babysit them. You have homework, you turn it in. But all year, I got Sarah, where do you want it turned in at? The orange box. All year, for 20 years. And it never occurred to me to like, sit them down in the beginning and say, okay, when you get homework, and you have it to turn in, I want it back here. Make sure it's dated, make sure it has your name on it, okay? And maybe let me know that it was in there. That's what I want you to do. Can you guys all show me what I expect, or whatever? I never did that. And it made the work more on me. I used to do circles for Socratic. And they had the desks that were connected to the chair, right? And I'd say, okay, get in a circle. And every chair that they squeaked along the floor, because it was hard floor, and then, you know, and all this, and you've got 35 kids doing this. And I would say, stop, pick it up. Good God, pick it up. Why didn't I just teach it? This is what I expect. This is how it's going to be. But instead I yelled and yelled and yelled and yelled. Or groaned, or cried, or begged. And the big thing is, you can't hold them accountable for something that you have not taught. All the way down to how they raise their hand.
And I saw some of you guys taking notes. If you're going to write something down, write that last one down. You cannot hold somebody accountable for something you haven't taught. Even a junior in high school, if you haven't told them how you want it done in your class, you can't get mad at them for not doing it the way you want them to do it.
Because it's your class. It's your way. That seems so simple and so obvious. But, you know, 22 years in the classroom, I didn't even think of that.
You know, my wife does the same thing with the kids at home. The kids did something knuckleheaded. She goes, well, it's my fault. I never told him not to. So I'm going to give him a warning this time, and it won't happen again, because next time he knows what's going to happen. But she really believes and buys into this. I didn't teach my kid this. I can't punish him for it. Now, if it was my dad, I would have woken up next week, but, you know.
Yeah, they came from a different school.
But this is important to remember, that if you haven't taught them it, you can't hold them accountable for it.
So, some discussions, some ideas, sorry. Your norms. What do you do when you have a guest speaker? What do you do when you have a guest parent that's hanging out and helping out or whatever? How do you want the kids to interact with them? Right? How do you want them to act when the administration comes in? Right? Or visitors in general, I guess. You probably shouldn't specify administration. But, you know, they tend to tighten up anyway when administration comes in. But, no, some don't. But talk to them about what you expect. How do you want them asking questions? I was not a hand-raising kind of person. I wanted you to be respectful and blurt out, which is terrible, I know, but that's just how I was. I have office hours in there because you guys aren't college profs, but when we were doing online learning, we had to have some kind of office hours, right? And what do you expect for that? Do you want them to sign up for that? Do you want them to just show up? You know, or like I had a lunch thing, because when kids fall behind an Avid, they get in trouble. And so I'd have a lunch tutorial thing, and they would come in at lunch, and they had to sign in and do their stuff. You know, I should have taught that, and I didn't. I just kind of threw the thing out and assumed they'd know. But you don't realize how much these kids don't know. Avid, we do trips. Are any of you familiar with Avid? So we do big trips, right? Up and down the state, doing that. And I had a kid who came from a traditional Hispanic family. I don't think they had a lot of money. And we were standing in the lobby at a Hyatt, and we passed out the key cards, and they go, "Miss Taylor, what is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's your key." And the room number was 221, and she said, "Well, how do I know what floor we go to?" And I turned to try to make a smart-ass comment, and I realized she was genuine. She's never been in a hotel where there was more than one floor. They probably stay with family most of the time. And so I was like, "Oh, second floor, 200. Oh, okay." Next morning we go down for the free breakfast, and my kids are all sitting trying to be grown up. And these are juniors and seniors. And I'm ordering, and the waiter comes, and we're ordering, and she's getting ticked. And I can see she's getting ticked. So I walk over and I said, "Close your menu." She goes, "What?" "Close your menu." And she was like, and she closed it, and the waiter was right there. And she just looked at me and giggled. How would they know that?
Yeah.
You know? They're not getting those kind of skills. They're getting skills from their parents, but different skills. And it's our opportunity to, that's a learning moment, right? That's a learning moment for you to say, you know, here's what it is. So in your groups, we're going to come around and give you a poster paper. Share some rules and procedures that you guys have identified as being pertinent. Like probably your top 3 for each person. And then we'll give to you the bulletin board, get a leader, a writer, and somebody that's going to present out.
Anybody have any hands?
Yes, you guys don't have a lunch board.
I do not.
You're the writer, the chair, you got it? You guys were born on the exact same day and year. And I was trying to listen to
There's yellow highlighters.
Gosh, I'm like, don't be sniffers. You know, I know, huh? We all know the best. No sniffing people. I know. If it doesn't work,
For me, I have like just really one rule in my class. It's just no bullying. Just keep it short and simple. You know, to students, that's easy for them to understand. Students can say, "Whoa, what is that?" You know?
what do you do when you said it?
Procedures, something I started doing is whenever I start class, I just have like instructions for at least what we're doing for the first 10 minutes of class. So as soon as they come in, they can, you know, look at the board, they know what's going on.
So it's like getting them to work. Oh, I get the colors too. Those are like, how we get that class.
I I said it was a procedure. As you start class, this is the procedure. Look up to the board and keep going. I don't know. Maybe do you want to separate your rules and procedures? Procedures, I guess. The first thing on the board is students' confidence. Seeing instruction.
Say it like in a positive way, like I respect
Well, and most of the time too, we do have to start the same question. The other thing, Steve, I was talking to him about
Okay, mine is.
Say warm up? Yeah, it's kind of the same thing.
So I like.
we were watching this.
It's not like you're coming in and talking until the teacher gets
Yeah, you guys are
Do you guys have any other rules in your class?
use the furniture appropriately.
Definitely applies for different grade levels.
Anyway,
well, and I put like if one of the kids is sad, one of my
So with kindergartners, do you have a lot of rules or like a few small rules that you make sure they follow?
I know yesterday.
A couple times a day.
What do you plan to make
I should include that on there. It's kind of fun. Procedures, how to blow your nose. It's like that'd be a good one to put I like what you said about like eyes and hands on me, can't speak to yourself. That's a good one. That's not just kindergarten either. I'm in like 8th grade and 7th grade and they're like that too.
That's what I teach 7th grade. Not sharing items.
Maybe call it like procedure to my attention, you know, just to get everybody's house. I really like that. Just to close to you, I like that. I just did that one class one time joking around, and then everybody in the class just made a clap back to me. And I was like, what was that? But like, it doesn't really well. You should float like a butterfly, sting like that. It'd be really cool if your school mascot would use it. Just give me some more rules. Do you guys have any rules for the classroom? So maybe put that in something different.
If you guys could hang them up somewhere near your place.
Oh no, and I get that.
Hey, 5-minute break real quick before we do this.
Putting them all on that side?
I see it right
Oh my gosh, if I had it's so yeah. That is so cool.
I know you're trying to rush it, and you're trying to figure out so you're gonna get affected. A lot of them are really, so a lot of them they know that they want that ego. That's the lowest thing you can get out.
Oh my God, you look so new. There's no coming back. Oh, he might be in the video now. We share a Robin Perry.
Where do you teach at?
Just all kinds of
When do they redeem them?
I usually do every other Friday.
Hey, you guys have in your little boxes of your tables, you might want to grab a couple Post-its. You're going to go around and look at the other ones if you've already looked at them. What I'd like you to do is with the Post-its, if you see something else to comment or something to add or something that like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of this, throw a Post-it up there so they get their little feel good about them coming up with something you had thought of. Okay, so about, Steve, you want to do your little timer again? We'll do 3.
So we just put a Post-it next to the paper.
That you think, like, oh, that's good, I didn't even think of that, or maybe if you have an idea that goes with some of this, or something to expand on it, whatever. If it's easier to do it while you're just sitting, because you can read them all, then do that, because getting through here is a little tough.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No,
that's all right.
Talking.
Just look around and then just go slap the Post-it notes on them.
Oh, but
Can you like toss them?
Yeah.
The people around you? I feel like I need to
Oh, that's such a good time.
finished for the day.
I know we can't. I'm wondering if we can pitch it.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's fine. And if you use a girl's one, but you do it.
Honestly, it's so expensive. My mom's so nice to me. I love her. Give me her leftovers. Yes.
Like this.
What are we just putting in? Didn't have one.
So what is it?
Taking but like you know, like I'll be the best. It's just not here you have to come like unless you're like yeah, 3 before me. You know what it is.
I know. But it has to have, you know, you've got to remove them from the situation, because it's in my case back in the corner, and they have to have some. Right, but I'm thinking that. No, I know. I know, I'm waiting for
Oh, the head's out. No, she's my mother. Oh, sorry. I know, because it's wearing the loud. Okay, go ahead and head back. Put it on like a... And what I want you guys to do is, those of you, we'll take pictures and I'm sure it'll be out in the classroom, but, okay, hold on. Look at your, the one you made and see what people commented on, because it might spur some ideas for you too. So check them out. It takes about, I don't know, a minute or two. Look at your posters, see what they said.
Oh, there's just one thing.
What does it say? What is the second part?
What exercise? A lot of people fun to say like the 3 before me. 3 before me. Oh yeah.
Someone that's leaving you on red.
3 before me. Yes. That's what they're. Well, I know Chum does that.
Okay, head back.
If they're Chromebooks.
Did that one get missed? Or was it so good?
That's from last week.
Oh.
I thought the same thing. I was going to mark it up, and I was like, wait, where are you?
That's really misleading. Okay.
We gotta get going. You guys have a whole nother thing you have to do after this. We'll take pictures of these and have them on the site because I think we'll run out of time if we try to go over them all. Hopefully you guys process some of it and give you some ideas, because what we're doing next is how to teach too. So, I mean, it's not really that. Hey, Steve, could you take the timer off?
No.
Okay. So a teach to, it does have a format. You can't just say, like what I did, oh, you just go put it in the orange box. That doesn't work. What you have to do is show them, then you have them do it with you, and then you have them practice it. So what are teach tos? They're lessons that teach your student what is expected of them. Yes?
I mean, you might answer it, but I'm wondering what happens when you have to repeatedly do teach tos.
Okay, repeating them is fine. So teach tos, some of them will be revisited daily. Some, once you put it in, they're fine for the year. Some of them you're going to have to obviously reteach at breaks, commercial. Breaks, holidays, you're going to have to reteach the important ones. Yes?
So like if you have a procedure, I don't know, say it's anything, say it's turning in homework, right? And you're having to constantly do teach tos to teach them how to turn in that homework. Do you ever draw a line to say either my procedure is too complex, I need to revise it, or I need to just keep teaching them until they get it?
So at what point do you run your head into the wall?
Yeah.
That's your call. Yes?
Playing off that, how often can you change the procedure? Like, I'm worried that if I start something and I hate it or they hate it and I change it again and I change it again,
you know what?
Really
you can do that. You can do that. Kids are flexible. So if you do something and you go, hey guys, I didn't like it. I don't think it worked really well. Let's reteach this, make it a big deal, right? We're gonna reteach too, and then we're gonna try this new one.
Okay.
Number one, you're gonna get their buy-in too, and they're gonna probably have a lot to say, because these become their consistency and their security. But you know, if they know how you want to walk in, I'll show you one that I do. So here's the rationales for teach tos. Rules and routines, we all know we need that. It gives students a feeling of security. It reinforces the skills every student must have to be a successful learner, right? Everywhere we go, we've got norms and everything we have to follow, and your classroom is the same way. And it allows your teacher, you, to be a fair disciplinarian. You know, to respond to what you said, this kind of falls into that. If a kid comes up to you and says, what do I do? Where do I turn my paper in? You don't have to repeat it, you just point. Because at this point, you've told them. So now they're accountable. We've done it, we talked about it, you can say, you know what, we talked about this, we did a teach to, I know you know where it needs to go. And then just point. Sorry?
Ask 3 before me.
Yeah. What is 3 before me?
So, like other people.
Oh!
As peers.
Well, and what I was saying was even like pointing at it, you could tell them, ask a friend.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
ask someone and they can tell you. And then
And then if you get the whole class doesn't know, you probably need to redo it.
Yeah.
But they'll hold each other responsible.
They do.
You already said that.
My big thing, and this was with high schoolers, I know we have a few high school teachers in here. You'd walk up and I'd put a page on the board and I'd say, okay, so we're gonna talk about this, we're on this subject. Why don't you guys get your whatever out? Now it's computers, but back when I taught it was still books. Get your book out, let's talk about this, or get your novel out. And it'll be right there, like literally right here, and I'm talking right here. This other what page? About the 3rd time I'm like, and they're like, they don't think it's a problem that they've asked you 600 times. They don't see a problem with that. Meanwhile, you're about to lose your voice and you're mad as, you know, as everything. But that's 3 before me is brilliant. I wish you really don't need this slide because you have it all around the room. You need to teach what you want. So here's the thing. You guys may have a totally different policy on what it means to be on time. I had high school kids, so you know I got everything from, well, I had the door open, right, to, well, I was inside the door, you know, and that was their on time. Well, I needed to be specific of what I thought was on time. And I'll show you that. But I will do a huge show for that to show you. Use them for everything. You know, some of them are in depth, like how I want you to ask a question. And so I'll say, and I'll sit up there and I'll demonstrate. You know, I don't want you to do the Horseshack, ooh, ooh, and I don't want you to do like the kids do this.
They're too young to know the whole Horseshack.
Oh, sorry.
Nobody knows.
No, they're not.
Well, you know it. You know when they do that behind their head and they just hold it up like this? You show them the right way. And you tell them, if you're not raising your hand the right way, I will not see you. And then you demonstrate, then you have them all demonstrate at their seats. And then you stop and you don't lead them and you have them do it by themselves. Now if you want to get silly on some of those, like you could do the whole, you know, different things, act silly, do it wrong. But sometimes I think, depending on the age in your classroom, they kind of get into that and then start acting really silly. But with high school kids or maybe some junior high, that would be kind of fun to kind of be silly about some of them.
These are the resources that are in your classroom. They're related to your handouts. You got a sample of it, but we didn't want to print a tree, so there's a whole bunch of procedures in your classroom.
And you get an idea. We're gonna you have some on in your handout that we're gonna talk about. Oh, sorry.
Hey, that's cool.
I don't know. I pushed a button. Okay. If you don't teach it, you can't enforce it. Here's how it goes. This is for those of you that are visual. Demonstrate correct way you want things done. Have class practice while you demonstrate. Have students do it without your help. And now you guys are going to model and teach too. So you have these lists. From your list, your table is going to pick one. And then you're going to share it and model it to the class so we can make sure that you know exactly what we're talking about.
Where's the list? Is it
From your
first
list.
page?
So is one person at the table going to be the teacher and the rest of them going to be the
Yes. So you're going to need a teacher.
Where's the list? Is it this page here? Or?
No, your list.
Oh, gotcha. You want to be the teacher? All right. Correct. I would honestly love if you taught us how to blow our nose right. If I could be honest. It's just the same. Go ahead. Just go with that. Oh, we are, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're doing it right now. It's tomorrow. Yeah, what do you need for tissues? What can we give you? Got some? We
I grabbed it and I'm trying so many assignments for a day. My girlfriend's kids went to
Well, and my kids play sports too, so I
That's it. And then you still
Show us how it's supposed to be and how it's
I would love to be in your kindergarten class. So I think you have to
pick your box, you're gonna have to show up. You're gonna have to demonstrate in a minute.
Okay, so now you leave this. Now we all kind of as you taught. So I guess pass around the box here for now. How long does it take them to get this procedure down? As soon as you show them the way to do it?
Oh really? Yeah. Oh my. Hey Jenny, they gotta Jenny, they haven't decided on procedure yet.
You'll be ready for them to do it.
Give them that one day where I know. And seconds, be ready. Alright, I'm gonna start teaching my kids. I know part of you wants to stay.
All right. Now, kids would know that the means the teacher wants your attention.
You haven't taught that.
You shouldn't be.
You didn't teach us that. You didn't teach us.
So, right. When the timer goes, I would like it if you would stop talking.
And look up.
You know, sir, when you guys came the first night, you wouldn't talk at all. And when you came to induction orientation, some of you, I couldn't get you to talk for like, a good hour.
Oh, they talked in here.
The only thing is that when I tell jokes, you don't laugh. Come on. My Raymond joke last week on the horse and the that was funny.
Okay, wait, let's find out. How many Giants fans are in here? Baseball Giants. How many Dodgers fans?
There you go.
Oh. Steve has some support.
All right, so we're going to let this back table go first because they have props and they're so excited. And they got this down. So what we want to see is the expectation that you have for how things work in your classroom. And I will say that you have 3 or 4 rules, you have 100 procedures, and I'm not exaggerating. This is how we do it. And if you can't do them all at once in the beginning of the year, but you keep adding, and you constantly are teaching it, reinforcing it with high expectations, and pretty soon it becomes something that you don't have to think about, and the kids don't have to think about. Let me give you an example. Do you put your car keys in the same place every time when you come home?
Yes.
Those of you that said yes, never lose your keys. Those of you that said no, every morning it's a hunt. I always put my keys in the same place every day, and then I know, I don't even have to think about it, right? I just have to go to that spot, and my keys should be there. And if they're not, somebody will. We got a problem. Right? Same idea in your classroom. These procedures will save your life. You will find that because once you get well-established procedures, you get to be nicer. And you have more instructional minutes because you're wasting less time. It's another layer that we're talking about. I've got another one coming at the end in February that will take these procedures and put them on hyperdrive, where kids are almost running to get it done because we're going to motivate them and incentivize them, which we talked a little bit of incentivization last week, but we're going to get there. Okay?
The other thing real quick is it seems like a lot, like Steve said, hundreds of procedures and rules, but you don't have to teach them all at the beginning, right? So it's going to be heavy on the front end, but it will pay off in the end, right? So when you feel like, oh my God, all I do is teach twos. Well, no, don't do just a string of them. You mix them in between, or when it comes up and it becomes a teachable moment. But otherwise, you mix it in. You don't want to be bored with a million teach twos, and neither do they. So you be heavy on the front end, so that probably right before November they'll get it, and then they go home and you have to start all over again. But you will see it in the final semester where you can finally take a breath, and maybe sooner, depends on how good you are about implementing all this.
So it's the idea of you're taking your 3rd grade class to the library. You say, okay, class, this is what you're going to do. You're going to line up. I think I ever heard today on campus the other day are hugs and bubbles, right? That was part of her procedure. All these second grade kids are supposed to be holding on to themselves.
Hugs and bubbles?
Yeah, because the kids play grab ass along the way, right?
Yeah. No.
Can I say that? Is that a cuss word?
I don't know.
I like how to say that.
Part of your body.
All right. Play grab butt, grab hand, grab whatever you want to say. Right? Okay, so now we start walking to the library, and as a teacher, I hear them messing around. What do? If I let it go, what am I saying? If I let it go, what am I saying?
It's okay. Do that whenever you want.
As long as I don't see you.
It's acceptable. Let me repeat what we said before. The standards in your classroom are whatever you let the kids get away with. I stated my standard was you will be quiet and we'll walk in a straight line to the library, but that's not what happened, and if I let it go, then that becomes my standard. So what do I need to do? Whoop, stop. I don't even have to say anything, do I? Whoop. Back to the back door. Let's try that again. Start going. And now I hear Larry in the back. What is he doing? Yep. So what am I going to do now? Stop. Larry, you come to the front. Right? Now you're on blast. Is that how you say it? Is that how the kids say it? You're on blast? We walk them back. Let's do it again. And now the kids are getting a little irritated because they kind of want to go to the library. Or maybe it's the cafeteria, or maybe it's free, whatever. Larry, right? All right, let's go again. And this time it works. Do I have to do it 3 times again tomorrow?
Hopefully not.
Maybe, but probably not. Because they now know where's my expectation. We walk in a straight line, and we do it quietly. And if Larry messes around, he comes to the front of the class. Okay? All right, you have a procedure that you call... What's the name of it?
Make the teacher come up front, so it's just like a classroom. Oh, yes.
Well, it's cleaning their nose.
Cleaning their nose. And your students are right there at the table, so you can show us.
Yeah, go ahead right there.
Your students are right there.
All right. Well, okay. I teach kindergarten, so you can imagine the tissue use.
Or the lack thereof.
Well, yeah. But I found they were just going in, holding the box and pulling a bunch of tissue out, and it was just disappearing. So I said, wait, okay. And again, yeah, because I just said, if you need to use tissue to clean your nose, it's here. Here's the sanitizer. Here's the garbage can. That was it. And then I noticed, we need to do something else. So one day I said, hold it. Okay. So this is what we need to do. When you come over here, you do not need 2 hands, just one. You're going to go and get 1 tissue. And you just go straight up. And then you have 1. Then what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half. So I did it. All right. And you're gonna put it over your nose. You have both hands, one on one side, one on the other. Okay, you're gonna go like this. You're gonna push against one side and you go and you blow out. You're gonna do it. And you're gonna go like this. So I actually did it. I did it. And then I said, okay. And then I think I still have mocos, so I have to do more on the other side now. So then we do it. Now we press on this side and we blow. All right, we wipe. Think. Is it done? I think so. We'll throw it away. But if it isn't done, okay, now you throw it away and get another tissue. And remember, 1 hand, not 2, 1. You go straight up. And then you do it again. If you have to do this, you do this. That's okay. With the tissue. Yeah. Okay, so once I showed them that. I said, fine. I don't want to see this, guys. Look. I don't want to see this. Not this. No, that doesn't do anything. And then you throw it away, and this is wasted tissue. So we also don't do this. No, we don't do that because then you have mocos from here going to here. And I don't want to see it. And I don't want mocos on my desk, on my doorknob. I don't want mocos all over the classroom. So then what you do, once you're done, and then there's a garbage can. You throw it away, garbage can. And here's a hand sanitizer. One hand here, like this, under the nozzle. The other hand on top, and it's flat like this. And you just press down one time. That's it. You don't go like this. No. Just one time and one time only. Okay. Then you do this. And then you are good. You try, and you go sit down.
Okay, they need to We didn't have them try it. So they need to try it. They need to do it with you. So give them each one like a tissue, and or they can just pretend.
Yeah, that's okay.
And have them pull it like you just.
I didn't have their tissue.
Oh, I didn't see it.
It's their pretend. It's their problem.
Oh. Okay.
Her master's are blowing their noses now.
Good job.
All right, pick the next table. You get to pick the next table.
Oh, okay. Let's go right here.
Okay, so I taught my students a bathroom signal. So the way I did it was, okay friends, so when we need to go to the bathroom, we're not going to raise our hand like this. Because when you raise your hand like this, that tells Miss Hendrickson that you have a question, or that you want to answer my question. Okay? So when you need to go to the bathroom, instead of doing a whole 5, you're going to show me 2 fingers. Can you show me 2 fingers? Show me 2 fingers. Now raise it up high. Oh, only 2. Check, only 2. Good job. Okay, put your hands down. So now, I want you to pretend that you need to go to the bathroom. How are you going to show Miss Hendrickson you need to go to the bathroom? Show me the signal. Show it to me. Oh, only 2. Make sure you only have 2. There you go. Okay, put your hands down. Okay, now this time, I'm just going to let you do it. So, pretend you need to go to the bathroom. How are you going to tell me? Go ahead, show me. How do you do it? Good job! Yay! Give yourselves a round of applause. Good job, friends.
All right, pick another table.
Okay, go ahead.
That's funny, we did the same thing.
Oh.
No, but really though. So, we're doing bathroom signals. So, I teach high school, so mine's pretty simple. When we're doing independent work, I don't want to be walking around because kids are doing tandem. So, we taught my class. So, if you have a question, we're going to raise our hand straight up. So, class, please raise your hand. Thank you. Great. If you need to use the bathroom, we're going to use sign language. So, fingers crossed, right over there, right over the top. Raise as high as I can. That way I know I can just excuse you, and you guys know when to go. Okay, so if you guys have a question, show me what you would do. Thank you. If you need to use the bathroom, show us what would you do. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Did you realize, like, particularly the last 2, it wasn't long, right? When the teach to moment happens, use that opportunity, boom, do it real quick, and then you've taught it. It doesn't have to be a long, lengthy, I mean, we're asking for a couple lesson plans, 5 lesson plans, but I mean, really all that is what is your objective. And so think about it. It doesn't take a lot.
All right, who's the next table?
Let's go in order.
All right, but you got to turn around because I got the camera.
I'm going to start from over here. So I'll be teaching how to enter the classroom. I teach at a high school 110 class. So what we do when we walk in, so the bell's ring, lunch is over, you've done chit-chatting. On the table here, if there's a sign that says grab paper, there's going to be 2 pieces of paper here. You grab the paper and you walk to your seat. If it's a Monday, it's the warm-up sheet. So you will grab the warm-up sheet, you will sit down, and then you will start the warm-up. The warm-up would be on the whiteboard. So some of you guys might be asking, when am I considered late? You will be considered late the moment I finish reading the warm-up questions. So again, you walk in, you grab the 2 sheets of paper, you take a seat, and you start the warm-up sheet. I will read the warm-up questions. Question 1 says this, question 2 says this, and question 3 says this. I would then proceed to do attendance while you do your warm-up.
Good. She didn't even model that.
She was was amazed.
She was in shock. Okay, you guys pick the next table.
Okay. So the one that we decided to do was the 3 before me. Some of you guys had questions about it. I guess in my classroom I use this like in station rotation. So when I have like level graders in the back and I'm working with like my group, for instance, that's like super low and they cannot have any distraction whatsoever at that back table, because the moment that I turn my direction towards another student, they're off. They're off task, they have to refocus, and it's just chaos. So we're going to practice the 3 before me. So if I give directions and I ask you to, for instance, to please turn to page 3 and you are unsure after my directions are on the board, please go ahead and ask 3 friends before you come up and ask me the question. So I guess, okay. So class, please go ahead and turn to page 142. Yes, Cameron?
What page are we supposed to turn to?
3 before me, Cameron. Page 42.
Oh. I was literally like, I don't remember.
So for instance, in a small group, like if you're sitting at a group of 4, usually they just ask the other people at their table, but when they're up, like my kiddos are up, walking around, moving around, they know 3 friends, come to the teacher. So that's the 3 before me. That's
Okay, so we focused on transitioning. I'm a kinder teacher, so that's very important. So this is kind of, we're at carpet time, we're going to pretend we're at carpet time, and we're getting ready to go back to our desk. So at least for my kinder class, that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to say, okay, boys and girls, I have set your paper in your desk. In order to go back to our desk, we need to stand up. We need to put our hands up in the air, and when I count to 3, we're going to clap. Okay, 1, 2, 3, clap, and we will walk to our desk. No running, we walk. Are you guys ready? Okay, go ahead and stand up. Hands up in the air. 1, 2, 3. Walking. And that's it. And that's
Good job. So, again, like what we were just saying, it doesn't have to be labor intensive. It doesn't have to be like a whole, take this whole hunk out of your day.